Im folgenden Video ist das Gespräch zwischen dem größten Polit-Streamer auf Twitch, Hasanabi, aus Amerika und Dekarldent. Viel Spaß.
We are now going to talk about the German elections, okay? And I have a German streamer who's also going to be talking to us about, who's going to give us some direct info. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, this is the German. You wanted the German. Now there's a German one here.
What would you like for me to call you, by the way? Or how would you introduce yourself to my audience?
Just call me Karl. It's
okay.
fine.
All right, Karl. Hold on. Let me turn this off.
So do you want a German accent or not?
I
can give you the full German experience if you want to.
I mean, I like that you're making it seem, you're implying that you don't have a German accent right now.
I do, but I can make it much stronger.
Okay. No, this is good. This is a good level of German, I think. Have you ever heard my German accent, Karl?
No, yeah, I did. I like your Turkish one better, but the German one is not bad.
Oh, when I say like, oh mein Gott, ich kann nicht glauben.
Ich kann das nicht fassen. Nee, you got to work on your anger level, because if you want to imitate a German one, then you got to be much more angry. This was more like an Austrian accent.
Ah, okay.
The German one is like a much harder one, like, oh mein Gott, ich kann das nicht glauben.
Oh mein Gott, ich kann nicht glauben.
That's much better. More angry. Just imagine you hate foreigners, and there's a bunch of them in your country. And then that's the anger level you want to have.
I mean, that's not very hard to imagine how people behave in that situation, considering that I have been a long time warner, I guess, not an advocate, but I've been warning about the fascist movement and mobilization happening in Europe, in European countries, Germany included, for quite a while. And I think that there is a lot that is happening in the United States of America that ends up happening in Germany as well. Now, of course, I want to talk to you about that today, considering that there was obviously a German election that took place, and Germany's conservatives celebrated the election as the far right was carved out of the governing coalition, even though they had major victories. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Die Linke. But if you don't mind, let's get started on the parties in general. Like, what are some of the German parties? How does that look? And also, maybe we can do like a briefer on every individual party and the election results as well.
Yeah, so it's a bit more complicated in Germany than it is in America. In America, you got two neoliberal parties. Yeah, and in Germany, we got like 20 of them. So we got a lot more neoliberal parties to choose from, and there's just like one non-neoliberal party, which is like just kind of neoliberal, which is Die Linke. So it's a classical left-wing party with some Marxist ideologies in there, and pretty much all the rest of them, like despite their color, despite their name, like even the Social Democratic Party is like neoliberal right-wing, if you ask me. So we got a lot to choose from and not much to pick for.
Yeah.
So to start at the top, which is like the party that won the election, which is like a Christian Democratic Party. Or
it's a center-right party, right? It's a center-right party.
No. Like they call themselves a center-right party, but Friedrich Merz, which will be the next chancellor of Germany, he's pretty much a light version of Donald Trump. So he worked for BlackRock for 10 years. He's a multi-millionaire. He tried to take over the party a couple of times in the past, but failed. Then Angela Merkel, after 16 years of being the chancellor, left the party or stepped back from the party, and Friedrich Merz took over. So he's pretty much a light fascist who doesn't show himself as much as he could, but he's far from being middle right or center right.
Yeah,
he's just right wing.
So the question I have for you, or I guess like the reason why I say that is because like initially, the integration programs that were put forth and like the refugee acceptance that happened was directly. I mean, that was like Merkel and the Christian Democrats were blamed for that. And then they started assuming even a more right-wing position, which, by the way, yes, I understand, like, taking advantage of refugees to build your infrastructure, I feel like, is also a historically right-wing position in general, but now it's attributed to the left, even though there's understandable reason for why, your country would open your borders into for destabilized people that have lost their homes.
Yeah. So the 5-point plan is basically it's everything they aimed for the last couple of years, and now they want to make prisons at the German border. That's pretty much what they're trying to do. We do have a policy in place that'll take the prisons on the European border, but the right-wing parties in Germany want to have those prisons at the German border. So it's pretty much just like a worse version of the European policy.
Yeah, it seems like, but that's what I mean. Like they saw the rise of the AFD and other, they saw a lot of right-wing mobilization, and they basically turned around and were like, no, we're going to be the ones who will oversee the militant border policies, not these fascists. And I feel like a similar thing also happened with Macron in France as well.
Yeah.
Where with the rise of the nationalist movement in France, Macron oversaw many of the same like anti-migrant policies and adopted them almost entirely and pushed for it aggressively. And if you ask these guys, they will say, "Oh, we're doing this because we want to stop fascism. We're capitulating to reactionary sentiment so that we can stop the fascists from gaining power and gaining momentum." That is precisely what the Democratic Party tried doing as well. But of course, they got destroyed by the Republicans in the process. And they've never really stopped trying to do that anyway.
Well, that's what they always do, right? Like, as soon as the economy fails because of capitalism, they turn fascist. And they try to take all the blame and put them on the foreigners in Germany. And they did the same in Italy. They did the same in France, in Poland, Hungary. They did it in all the European countries, which is why all of Europe moves to the right wing. And now, pretty like even the Green Party, which is like the one of the more left-wing parties, you could say. It's like they're neoliberal, but they're also like left-wing. Like at least they were in the last couple of years, and they turned straight to the right-wing policies against foreigners, and pretty much like they're in line with the AFD, which is what's happening right now. So we got a couple of parties, like 5 of them, who are just in line with AFD. They do the same policies. They're pretty much the same, except for being not as much anti-Europe as the AFD is. So the AFD wants like a German currency. They want the Deutsche Mark back, which is like catastrophic, which is like the only thing that the AFD does that the other parties don't do. So in Germany, we're pretty much, as a left-winger in Germany, you're pretty much fucked at best.
Oh, no, I know. Right? Oh, I see it. And I think like the Israel stuff, I think perfectly demonstrated that like in terms of German politics and the widespread adoption of like very far right sentiment on this issue. But the thing that is always shocking to me is when the German government, for example, will undermine the ICC, or when the German government will when anyone in the, when any German politician says like, oh, fuck the European Union, like the European Union is geared by Germany. If Germany falls, then the EU is gone. There's no more EU. Like it's the economic engine. And the same with ICC. Saying, like, sorry, go ahead.
European politics is German politics. That's what they say in Germany. Like it's not in Brussels. It's in Paris and France. That's pretty much it. And as you said with all of the Palestinian and Israel stuff, like if I'd be in Germany, like I live in Ireland, but if I'd be in Germany, I'd be in jail. Like pretty much that's just straight up it. Like we like the left movement in Germany is just as pro-Israel as like the American right-wing movement. Like as a pro-Palestinian left-winger, you're pretty much just fucked all over the place. I mean, I got a tattoo on my arm that says Palestinia. If I'd had that in Germany, like I'd be in jail.
That's insane. I mean, I've seen it though. I've seen it. They're fairly actively going after any kind of like mobilization that criticizes Israel. And even from what I understand, Die Linke is what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, they gained a lot in this election, and there's some celebration that's worthy here. I think, especially as an American, it's like ridiculous for me to criticize any other country's politics in this way, because like Die Linke, even if I don't fully align with their worldview, it's like closer to me than the modern Democratic Party is. That's for sure. So, in that regard, I think there's some celebration that must be had here. Having said that, you can't have a conversation about Die Linke's massive gains without thinking about the shadow cast by the AFD's unimaginable gains in such a short period of time, becoming the second largest bloc. Now, of course, they're going to be, and you can describe this a little bit better for my audience, I hope. There's going to be some, they are not going to be a part of the governing coalition. The AFD is not going to be a part of the governing coalition. So even though they are effectively the second largest party, they're still completely shut out from the government. So, so that's praiseworthy, I guess, or that's the reason why the right wing is celebrating in Germany.
No, yes and no, because they're being used as a tool by the Christian Democratic Union. So basically, you have to understand that for whatever reason, although we're turning back to being Nazis, like we have a problem with being called a Nazi. So the policies are the same and the thinking is the same. We're as much racist as we were in the 40s, but we have a big problem with being called racist and Nazis. And so we try to do right-wing policies and politics, but without being called Nazis. So the Christian Democratic Union is using the AFD as a tool. Pretty much they're saying we have to work with the SPD, and if you're not doing as we please, then we're going to work together with AFD. That's what they're doing. They try. Usually we have 4 years of a government working together, and the Christian Democratic Union already says we're doing this for 1 year. So we're just restricting the time for 1 year, and we see how it goes. And if you're not doing what we want to, we work with the Nazis. This is what's happening. So they got big power. They got a huge momentum. And as a left winger in Germany, pretty much our job is to use the people that are beginning to think as a left winger, which are not many, but at least a couple of them.
So let's talk about the previous coalition. There was a three-party coalition that existed, and it was always from what I understand, it always was seemingly struggling. And now CDU in this instance is able to gain more momentum. Can you talk about the previous coalition and the FDP?
They weren't struggling. Like, that's what they're saying, and people are excusing for them being struggling. But the government didn't struggle, and also the coalition didn't struggle, but the world was struggling. So we had Corona, and we had the Ukraine war, and this was pretty much a major factor for our economy. And that's the reason why the government didn't do as well as they could have done without all those crises. And they did more, I think they did 70% of what they promised to do, which is more than any other government in the history of Germany did. So they pretty much did a great job, although they didn't do what I wanted them to do, but that's a whole nother level. But they did as they promised, and they did a lot better than any other German government in the past. But the right-wing movement, so Christian Democratic Union and AFD, they took all the economic crisis and said, well, that's because of the government. And people took the pill. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, for Western liberal capitalist countries, this was obviously the incumbent disadvantage election globally. And that's the reason why, partially the reason why even the Tories lost in the UK. So whoever was in charge that oversaw the cost of living crisis was basically left with all of the blame. And I think that the right wing obviously took advantage of that. Having said that, I think that their solutions ultimately are not going to solve any of the problems that exist and only make things worse overall.
Yeah. Well, and there's another factor that you have to take into consideration, because the FDP was basically just openly sabotaging the government the last 3 years. So they said it. So usually the government works for 4 years. This time there were new elections after just 3 years, because the FDP was like basically just sabotaging the government, and they had no chance but to do re-elections, right? So
yeah.
Well, at least they're not in the government as of now, so they didn't get enough votes, which is good. But this was a major factor for the last government not being as successful as they could have been.
So the way this works is, if you don't get 50% majority, like if no singular party reaches 50% majority, then they have to set up a coalition, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like the Christian Democrats are going to set up a coalition with the SPD once again,
yes,
as they have in the past. And therefore, I mean, that I suspect is what's going to take place, right? Like that's the
yeah. It's not as much about percentages as it is about seats. So you need a couple of seats, like I think it's 316 as of now that you need to form a government. So or 306, I don't know. But at this place, we're gonna get the Christian Democratic Union and SPD government, which is basically a given.
Yeah, 316 seats total.
Yeah.
Right. So
that is a given.
Yeah. What do you? I mean, what have they signaled that these two parties are going to do? Because like SPD, can you describe to my American audience like what SPD is and how they present themselves versus like what their current alignment is, what their current ideological alignment is?
I think in Germany they call them the socialists. So, but in Germany, like in America, everything that is like just slightly left wing is a socialist. So they're far from being socialists. Like they're like a neoliberal, just centric party that does everything they have to do to stay in power, to take the power, and they're doing nothing that could be considered left wing for 20 to 25 years. So they destroyed the social state. They present themselves as a labor party, which is kind of the whole identity of being like a labor party, just like doing the stuff that the others wouldn't do, being like a classical Marxist left-wing party. But they, like, ever since the KPD, so the Communist Party in Germany, split themselves from the SPD, there's not much of a socialist view left in the SPD. So the difference between SPD and CDU isn't as large as you'd think. So they pretty much do the same Eurocentric neoliberal politics, and they're great coalition partners. Like they work together for like 20 years, the last couple of years. I'm 36 years of age, and I can't imagine like SPD and CDU. It's basically the government. They're doing coalitions all the time for 20 years. And they're doing much the same. CDU says what has to be done, and SPD just like they do nothing.
So
like,
let me ask you something, Karl. There are a lot of, I would say, German liberals who are frustrated with your commentary, and it's something that I'm very familiar with. Liberals being frustrated with your commentary.
I'm used to that,
What is their assessment? And I asked chat this as well. What is your assessment, chat? The German liberals specifically, like what is your problem with what Karl has said so far? Because it seems like maybe, I mean, I've seen a lot of people that support the Greens saying that the Greens are actually leftists. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people chime in and say the SPD is not neoliberal. But I mean,
which is crazy, but okay.
It seems like, from what my assessment, and this is reductive, but I saw basically the Christian Democrats and SPD and even the Greens as like numerous different parts of the Democratic Party, even the FDP, as a matter of fact, very similar to the American Democratic Party, but they just all have like different facets of the American Democratic Party, because we have our crazy neoliberals who like immediately want to implement free market principles on the one hand. We have our obviously relatively socially conservative right-wing Democrats out there, the Blue Dog Democrats and the Problem Solvers Caucus here in America. So like, I think all of these parties that I have basically pointed to make up different parts of the Democratic Party. And I would even go so far as say Die Linke as well would make up like the super progressive wing of the Democratic Party, like the AOCs and the Bernie Sanderses of the Dems as well.
I wouldn't say so, because I heard a great thinker in Germany who says if you take all the policies that Die Linke tries to implement and you just implement 50% of them, that's the end of capitalism. Like, and it's pretty much just the truth. So they're very like, they have some great Marxist thinkers in the lead as of now for the last couple of months, and they're doing great work. So I'd say if you want to vote for a left-wing party, then you have to vote for Die Linke. The only reason like the communists in Germany and also those like ultra left-wing people in Germany aren't much of fan of Die Linke is because they're against parliamentarism itself, against the democracy as it is, and because of their statements or missing statements about the genocide in Israel and Palestine. So that's the only two reasons that I can think of that people aren't happy with Die Linke. But besides that, they're doing great work. And all those other parties, they're pretty much neoliberal. So none of them is socialist. None of them, like, some are like more progressive than the others when it comes to society. So SPD and Grüne and FDP, they're all for like homosexual rights and trans rights and stuff like that, but not as much as Die Linke. So even when it comes to the society, the Die Linke is much more progressive than all those other parties. And when it comes to like economics, like all of them are pretty much doing the same work. Like all of them are neoliberal.
Okay, so Die Linke, from what I understand, has both, some pro-Palestinian sentiment that they've expressed, but also not enough, and a lot of people that a lot of people are complaining in the chat that they've like actively worked against some of the pro-Palestinians in their ranks as well.
They did. They threw out a couple of activists out of the party. Because like I don't understand Germans when it comes to Palestine anyway, so like it's hard for me to talk about it. Like a friend of mine, Abdul Shahin, who's like a Palestinian, he said the time when I listen to white people about Palestine is over. Like I don't listen to them anymore. Like don't talk to me about the topic. You have no idea whatsoever, and you'll never have. So just shut the fuck up and let's keep going, right? And this is pretty much my view on the whole like Palestinian. Like Friedrich Merz, the first thing he did was invite Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
It pretty much tells the story, right?
So that tells a really scary story, because the ICC, much like many European institutions, is almost entirely protected by Germany. And if it wasn't for Germany, then like the ICC is a completely toothless institution. One could say that it already is, unless they're going after warlords in Africa, or as Lindsey Graham once famously said, thugs like Putin. With the exception of those territories that the ICC covers, like Germany is supposed to be the protective party over the ICC. So when Germany invites Netanyahu, that is directly undermining the ICC's power. It's saying that the ICC is over. There is nothing.
Yeah, it's anarchy. Like
Putin is objectively bad, though. Come on. Yes, I know. I'm just simply stating that so is Benjamin Netanyahu. It would be ridiculous if he said Putin can come to Germany, without fear of repercussions. Everyone would understandably get mad at him. But when he says Benjamin Netanyahu can violate the ICC arrest warrant and come to Germany without any fears, this is not seen as like a direct shot at the remaining power and influence that this International Criminal Court has.
Yeah, it's just a kick in the balls for the ICC as a whole. Like Germany was that one European country that took the ICC and put it about everything else. And historically, it's a pretty bad hit for the ICC in general, because it says you can do whatever the fuck you want to as long as you're in line with America. That's pretty much what that says. And we have no party except for Die Linke who stood up and said, no, that's not going to happen. Because Jan van Aken, who's like the head of Die Linke, or one of the two heads of Die Linke, he says like he's going to go to jail if he tries.
Yeah, this is completely unacceptable. Like, I don't think people understand how serious this is. Like, this is why I kept repeating over and over again, and many Germans in my chat and many Europeans in my chat get mad at me, but like every country is now becoming Viktor Orban. A lot of the Western European nations made fun of Viktor Orban for understandable reasons for the longest time, and now slowly but surely they are moving in the Viktor Orban direction. Maybe they're not linking up with Vladimir Putin directly, but these kinds of actions are also beneficial for Putin as well. When you undermine the ICC's authority, you're basically saying, yeah, there is no international justice. There is no international court. There is no international law, because Germany is the protectorate of the ICC. The entire, like, post-World War II, whether you want to say it's like an aesthetic development or not, the entire rebuilding of the nation revolves around like holding on to these values, right?
Well, Germany is Europe. That's just pretty much what as it is. Like if you talk about the European Union or Europe as a whole, you talk about Germany and France. That's pretty much it. So if you underline the ICC and you do not arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, all your words from the past have no meaning whatsoever, because like Viktor Orban, he invited Putin, and we did it. Well, like we exploded. Like German media exploded. We're like, you can't do that. That's like an ICC warrant, and you can't talk to him. You can't invite him to your country. Now we're pretty much doing basically the same with Netanyahu, and no one says anything, which is crazy to me. But go deal with it. That's Germany.
So, let's talk about Die Linke's victory, specifically reaching 9% almost with 4.3 million votes. They got 64 seats. They were the most popular party under 18. They were the most popular party between 18 and 24, with the second most popular party, if I'm not mistaken, being AFD still, but I might be wrong about that.
No, it's true.
And that's still obviously, I mean, that's a good thing overall. What do you attribute to Die Linke's victories in this last election?
Well, it was the focus. They focused on class war. So it was the first time in years. Like, I can't imagine a time where like a left-wing party in Germany did such a good, amazing focus on class war. They were talking about workers' right. They were talking about rents. They were talking about like food and beverage prices. It was basically just all economics. It was like you struggle and we have problems, and those problems are the money. You're missing money. We're going to get you the money, and we're going to get you the money from the rich people. That was basically everything they did, and they're like a strict anti-fascist polity, and that's the reason why they got almost 9%, which is great.
Yeah. So I am a firm and committed believer that austerity is what has made Europe more reactionary. Austerity implemented by neoliberal parties, the undermining of social safety nets, and also the privatization of the already undermined social safety nets that make these services that were previously controlled by the government worse and worse overall. And in that anger and resentment, you create an environment that is perfectly captured by right-wing reactionary movements, blaming migrants, blaming gay people, engaging in culture wars and the like. So seeing a party actively combat that and then try to bring the conversation back to how the government can help you, especially when you have like some semblance of social safety nets and a defense of said things, is ultimately a good thing. But it's clear that
compared to America, we have a great social security system. Like compared to America, like Germany is great. Like we're not as good as Scandinavian countries are, but we're a lot better than the US is doing. But we could do a lot better. So we're privatizing like the whole, like we're not buying houses, we're renting houses, which is the reason why capitalists profit from those house rent prices. And they go up and up and up and up by 40% the last 5 years, which is like the capitalists do what they always do. Like whenever there's a crisis, economic crisis like Corona or the Ukraine war, like people are expecting that the prices go up. So, and as they were expecting that the prices go up, like the capitalists took the prices and just skyrocketed them to the max. So they did maximum profits over the last couple of years, and everyone's blaming it on the foreigners, which is kind of crazy because like there's a German politician who's Gregor Gysi, who says like a couple of years ago, 10 years ago, there weren't as many foreigners in Germany as there are now, and the rent prices were up as well, and you didn't have just €1 more in your pocket. So how can the foreigners be responsible for the lack of money in your pocket? Which is a question that no one can answer. But like
this is something that I talk about all the time. It's undocumented migrants are not your landlords. Your landlords are the ones who are raising the rents, and your politicians are the ones who are in the pockets of landlords who refuse to increase the housing supply. So that's a great way to communicate. I just seeing the rise of the AFD, though, are people actually listening? Especially considering that the CDU also still improved its stances, from what I understand. Improved its standing. Sorry, from what I understand. So you got gains on the CDU side, and you got major gains on AFD. What does that say about German politics, the state of German politics right now?
Well, the German society is just like they buy the picture of the bad illegal immigrant who's responsible for the shit that's happening. So we got historically low crime rates in Germany. Like the crime rates aren't as high as like the media and the people are trying to tell the German people. And we're just trying to build the feeling of you have to be afraid, and you have to be afraid of the foreigner. Because the illegal immigrant is the source of all our problems. And if we get rid of them, if we get rid of the Muslims, like, it's not the foreigners, it's just like the non-white people, like, just say it as it is. It's just straight up racism. We do not have a problem with like Ukrainian people or with Polish people or with French people. We have a problem with like the Muslims, like the Turks, the Arabic countries. Like we have a problem with those people. So if you come to Germany and you're not white, you have a problem at the moment, because people are buying that you're responsible for pretty much every problem that is in Germany right now. So whether it being the crime rates, whether it being like economic crisis, whether it being like just pretty much imagine any problem, and the answer from CDU and AFD and SPD and the Green Party is, well, it's illegal immigrants. So I think 70% of the people who voted yesterday, the most important topic for them was illegal immigrants. 70%, which is crazy. In 2021, like climate justice and like war and Corona and stuff like that was on our agenda. So those were the topics that you could win an election with. This year, it's illegal immigrants. So, and this is the reason why even the SPD and the Green Party focused on illegal immigrants and what we can do to get rid of the illegal immigrants, which is pretty much nothing, because like first and foremost, they're not illegal. Second of all, it's because of the Dublin Amendment. So Germany is in a pretty privileged position that if we hold European law, then we do not have any immigrants whatsoever. No one can enter Germany because we're in the middle of it and we have no border. So we have no European border. So no immigrant can enter Germany without breaking a law. So German politics at the moment are saying like, we do not want any immigrants whatsoever. We just want the ones who work, which is like a classic capital argument. You're not looking at the human, you're looking at the resource. If you work, you're good. If you're not working, get the fuck out.
Yeah. That's also an interesting position, because I guess like Germany's right wing also has this position, as opposed to, like, I would say the British right wing, whereas the British right wing and even Brexit was caused not only because of their version of the quote unquote refugee and Islam problem, but beyond that, they were very frustrated with like Polish migrants coming in, well, not even migrants, but like a Polish workforce coming in, which they perceived as like displacing the existing British labor pool. And I feel like in Germany, there's a difference where some of the right wing parties still have a very like hardline approach, which is maybe born out of German history post World War II, bringing in migrants specifically to work in German industry. Turks obviously being a major group here, where they just simply look at it with a with this cold approach, where they're like, yeah, you could come in, you just have to work for much cheaper. Is the AFD's stance on this similar, or do they want to just eradicate all across the board, like no more migrants whatsoever?
In public, yes. Like in public, like people like Alice Weidel, she's someone who's in public saying that we need immigrants, and as long as you're paying your taxes, doing your work, as long as you assimilate, you're fine and you have nothing to worry. But behind closed doors, like the AFD is run by Nazis, like just straight up literal Nazis, like
like the hookah guy, right? That dude is like a straight up Nazi.
Yeah, he is. Like he's a fascist, he's a Nazi in every way. Like he'd walk next to Hitler if he'd had a chance to. So the AFD is run by literal Nazis, but they trying to be like just like a mild liberal right-wing party. So we have no problem with foreigners in general. We have no problem with any race or any ethnicity or any religion in general. It's just the criminal ones, and it's the ones that are not working and destroying our social state. So in the 90s, we had some right-wing party, NPD, which is similar to NSDAP. It was a national party, Germany. And they realized that the German society is not ready for getting rid of all the foreigners. So they had to tell a story. And their story was that we have no problem with foreigners or immigrants, but we do have a problem with the criminal ones and the ones that are not working. And pretty much ever since, every right-wing party in Germany is doing the same story. Like we're super liberal, like we're super friendly, like the world is our friend, but we have criminal ones and we have the non-working ones, and we have to get rid of them. So this is also the public state of the AFD. But behind closed doors, make no mistakes, the party is run by Nazis.
Yeah. So what do you suspect is going to happen for the future of German politics? I can tell you what I suspect is happening, which is that whichever governing coalition exists, it's going to be very right wing. It's going to basically try to take up as many of the I guess, quote unquote, populist stances, like the right wing nationalist stances that AFD has, and try to get ahead of the nationalists. Try to get ahead of the nationalists, like securing a governing coalition next time around. But in that process, that capitulation will normalize more and more right wing positions, as it has already, and then people will say, okay, well, we don't want the diet thing. We want the real thing. Like we want AFD. That's what my assessment is on this. And that's precisely what's happening in the UK with the reform movement, as well as people are immediately frustrated with the current Labour administration and the after years and years of Tory austerity, the Labour administration has not really dramatically changed the direction of the British economy. So the reform movement is growing in the UK, and I think that the AFD will grow in Germany if left unchecked, if they don't actually change their policies, and I don't think they will.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Well, Die Linke has an answer for that, which is called anti-fascist economies. So we need a strong social state. We need to solve the problems that the people are having, like lower the rents, lower the prices, lower everything that is like that the people are struggling with. And as long as the people are happy, fascists can't grow, which is pretty much a theory that goes around for a couple of years, and we're trying to do that. It's pretty hard because we're not doing any of this. So we're going to get rid of some foreigners, like the illegal immigrants will go, like a couple of thousand of them will be deported. I don't know where, but they're going to get deported. And
wait, I thought they don't call it deportation, they call it remigration, I thought.
Yeah, remigration is like it's deportation.
Like, yeah, no, I know. I'm joking, but that is what, because like I feel like deportation in and of itself has a different meaning in the minds of Germans, at least for German history. So they actively, even the AFD will try to actively liberalize their reactionary sentiment here and say no, we don't want deportations, we want remigration.
Yeah, remigration it was a huge scandal because remigration is just like deportation, a word that Germans don't use. We call it, well, let's get them back home. So we're euphemizing everything that has to do with deportation, but it's deportation. Like we're gonna get them to prisons if we don't know where to put them. So it's deportation. Like we're gonna deport a couple of thousands of them, and no problem's gonna get solved. So the people are still angry, and then the AFD is gonna rise even more, in my opinion, because like the AFD is a party that can go even further than what the CDU and the SPD is doing right now. So right now we're talking about illegal immigrants. So, but where are you going to do if the illegal immigrants aren't in your country anymore? You go to the immigrants, right?
Yeah.
You take the illegal and you get rid of the word illegal, and you just take the immigrants, like the non-white people in Germany. So the AFD is gonna radicalize even more, or just take more of their already radicalized ideology to the public, and let's hope that the German population doesn't swallow that pill. Like I'm hopeful, I'm motivated, because Die Linke is a really strong party, and I think that as of right now we have a huge left-wing movement in the German youth. So we can mobilize the people for class war and be a good solidarity force, and like just put some millions Germans on the streets. Like Germans usually aren't protesting as much as they are in France or in America, but we got to get used to that, I guess.
So, what do you say to people that claim that Die Linke's advancements simply were to take away from SPD and Grüne's? They just basically took some of the SPD and Green Party voters, and that it's ultimately marginal. And then the other question that I have for you also is why the AFD is so popular in Eastern Germany, because a lot of Americans don't understand the difference and think that it is because, that's where all the migrants are, that's where all the migrant crime is or whatever. But I think that they don't understand what the full picture is.
No. So first question, yes, that's true. Like 600,000 voters just directly voted Die Linke instead of Grüne. So obviously they take voters from SPD and the Green Party. But I think it's a good thing because SPD and the Green Party aren't left-winged. And Die Linke is. So if you're a left-winger, you got to vote for a left party if you're voting. Yeah. So having a strong left-wing party in the parliament is pretty important, and standing up for what you believe in is also very important if you believe in democracy and parliamentism. So if you vote as a left wing in Germany, you can't vote tactical for the SPD or the Green Party, because you're basically going to get the same politics that you're going to get with the CDU. So CDU with SPD, there's no difference from CDU and the Green Party. It would have been the same. And why are there like more right-wing people in Eastern Germany? Because Eastern Germany's economies are even more fucked than in Western Germany. Yeah, like in the 90s, West Germany, like when the Soviet Union fell and the DDR, when the DDR was being like took over by Western Germany, Like from that point on, West Germany fucked Eastern Germany whenever they had the chance to. Like we privatized everything. Like there are a lot of people that are unemployed. Like they lost their houses, they lost their money, they lost their properties, they lost their working place, they lost everything. And Western Germany privatized whatever they wanted to. So whatever, like whenever there's a crisis, the crisis hits Eastern Germany even harder than West Germany. Yeah. Which is the reason why the people in Eastern Germany are much more radicalized, like 30% AFD and 15% Die Linke.
Yeah. And also, one note here, but yes, Americans don't understand this, but like there are more, I guess, quote unquote, foreigners in Western Germany than there are in the Eastern Germany territories that the AFD actually dominated. And a similar thing actually happens in America as well. So many rural areas that are not diverse at all make these anti-diversity picks, these anti-diversity initiatives. They get swept away by that, thinking that, you know, black and brown people are coming in and changing their culture or taking their jobs, stealing their jobs, when in fact it's quite literally not the case. And more diverse environments with actual, like places where there are actually undocumented immigrants, for example, in higher numbers, are oftentimes Democratic Party strongholds in general.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like wherever there's a university in Eastern Germany, like people are voting left winged. So when there's people around and the cities diverse, then they're not voting AFD. Like it's pretty much the same all around the country. Like if a white person meets a non-white person and realize, well, he's not as bad as I thought, then people, like things change for the better. But Eastern Germany has like, I think between 2 and 7% foreigners, whereas in Western Germany it's like 35%, even 40 in some cities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Karl. Is there anything we missed that you want to say before I let you go?
Not as much. Like German politics aren't as different from the American ones. It's just like we have more parties doing the same thing. Yeah. Like in America, you got 2 parties basically doing the same thing. In Germany, we have like 6 of them, or 20. So it's all around the world. It's the same.
Yeah, that's what I try to describe to people. I mean, I come from a background in Turkish politics where like I understand what it's like when you have a multi-party parliamentary structure, which, I mean, Turkey's now a presidential system. There's a constitutional reform that took place, but, you know, the alignment still basically falls into the 2 different camps. Oftentimes there's still a uniparty understanding. At least in America, there's a lot of uniparty when it comes to deregulation. It's mostly in the margins, those differences. Like the Democrats will deregulate marginally less than the Republicans, but ultimately, when it comes to foreign policy, it's completely uniparty as well. Having said that, in the European parliamentary structures, the coalitions that they build basically create the same exact outcome.
Yeah. It's neoliberalism. Like everywhere you look, it's the same in America as it is in Europe, and especially in Germany. Like we profit from capitalism all around the place, and we turn to fascism whenever there's a crisis. So that's the same. Like it's happening to you in America, and it must be very hard to be a left wing in America at the moment. So stay strong to my comrades in America. Just stay strong, and I don't know. Like I really don't know what to do against Trump, because he's like pretty much doing the German playbook as of right now.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the old German playbook?
The old German playbook.
Yeah. Exactly.
The liberal one, but he's doing the old German one.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, like you say, history repeats itself, but I could not think that it would repeat itself in America, but it is.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
Unfortunately.
And it took less than 100 years for us to just like snap back, because I guess you know, capitalism is inevitably going to yield crisis, and in that crisis, fascists will obviously create a semblance of stability, and in that circumstance, capitalists have a decision to make: where do they still want to maintain the same old hierarchies, even if it's done with the with the steel grip of fascists? Will they be able to restore order that way, as long as they retain the same hierarchies, or will they join the right side of history and maybe actively fight against it? But I do think that one thing is clear, and that is that neoliberalism is on its last leg in general, born out of all of its victories in the post-Cold War era, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, if we're not solving the problem, then the climate is going to solve the problem, right? Which is pretty much
it's going to wipe us all out. Left. Yeah, or nuclear war. Who knows? Who knows?
It's going to be good times in the future. Good times in the future. Well, last words: stay strong to my comrades in America. Just never give up. Never take a step back from fascism. Like, as a German, I know what you're going through at the moment. Although not in person, but my ancestors did. It's a pretty rough time, but rough times always we're gonna come through. Like, you're gonna come through. Let's hope Germany's not taking the same path.
All right. Thanks a lot, Karl.
Take care,
have a good one. Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That was our German counterpart, German leftist streamer, Dekarldent.